All right,
Hey,
we're live. Zachary,
what's up?
how's it going?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, no, it's an honor to have you, honestly, Zachary, because, so as you know, I just started this podcast called The Investigation of Things. And the reason why I started it is to be able to talk to a wide variety of people. Some people old, some people young, some people, in psychology, in theology, in neuroscience, in bunch of different factors of life, plumber, whatever. And just to kind of broaden my view of things and to connect ideas and to learn from others, ask questions. And I thought you would be the perfect person to have on as my first guest
Well,
because I believe you are a seeker of truth as well. Even if you might not call it that, I believe you are a seeker of truth, my friend.
definitely, man. I appreciate appreciate the introduction. Uh, it's definitely an honor to be on the show, and yeah, I would say I think it's really important what you're doing and what you're trying to do because trying to seek wisdom through every kind of person and every kind of person that's out there, it's a really wise thing. So, um, I'm gonna try my best to be your first guest. Make it a good
Why
one.
do you why do you think it's important to seek wisdom? Like why do you think that it's better than, let's say, if you knew less, then you would actually get hurt less, right? Because you would almost be unaware of the dangers of life or unaware of certain things. So, why did you say that it would be better to like expand your horizons?
Well, um, I think for me, I think that it was the best decision for me to expand my horizons based on almost out of necessity, based on how I grew up. Um, I think that I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm super unique or anything like that, but I'm trying to say that I think out of necessity, I wanted to seek different perspectives and surround myself with other people and different people and new people than what I was used to. Let's say growing up and the people I was surrounded with as a kid, as a teenager, and as an adult. When you become more independent, you've I'm just trying to rattle on, but you've had experiences, and you use those experiences to kind of make your best judgment to figure out who you are and the kind of people you should spend your time with.
So, like, would you say that you had an intuition to do this to continue to grow and better yourself, or would you say that you were taught by elders, like maybe teachers or parents, to do this? And so that would mean with if you didn't have parents or teachers, then you might not have even started this growth in the first place.
Are you talking about seeking wisdom?
Yeah, so you were talking about as you grew up, right? You tried new things, you branched out, you learned more, you expanded your horizons, right? As you were growing. And so I'm wondering, was that like an intuition of yours? Or do you think that you were like taught to do this? So, like your parents told you to do these things and your teachers told you to do these things. And and if that's the case that you were taught to do this, then if you didn't have teachers or parents to guide you, would you have progressed at all is what I'm saying. Because if it's an intuition, then you would have progressed either way, right? Even if you had no parents, no teachers. But if it relied on the guidance of others, then if you didn't have guidance, then you would have really struggled, right?
I think for me, I mean, I think for everybody, it's like an accumulation of experiences, things we've tried, mistakes we've made, mistakes we personally made, or mistakes we made because we thought other people thought that it would be the best thing to do, but it wasn't the right thing for us to do, and learning that way too. Dude, I forgot what was your question.
No, you're good. We're talking about
Oh,
why you
intuition.
expanded. So you think so? Yeah. So you're saying basically it was an intuition because you would go through mistakes. You would have mistakes, but you wouldn't want to repeat them again. So that kind of makes you progress. Is that correct in my understanding what you were saying?
Yeah, I think having intuition is a part of that. And that's the thing. We can get into intuition too, because like I was thinking maybe I was wondering if some people are more intuitive than other people. Maybe people have different levels of intuition. But I think for me, I was intuitive to enough, I guess, to at least for me, uh, I felt like I had to through seek wisdom through means of having a mentor other than my family a lot. And I think that was uh, intuition, because what I had and the advice I was getting by default, which could be like your family or someone who's just around, you might think that I think there was an intuition there where I thought the answer they're going to give me or the advice they're going to give me might not be the best advice for me. So, using my intuition, I sought wisdom through
Yeah.
other channels.
Yeah. I definitely think that intuition is sort of a use it or lose it kind of thing. Like, I think everyone generally has an intuition, except for maybe rare cases where, something will happen and then you'll have this thought or this intuitive thought that you don't know where it comes from, but it's kind of telling you to do something or to not do something, like don't steal or don't hurt this person, or maybe you have an intuition to pursue this thing, to seek out a mentor, etc. But I definitely think that if you don't use the intuition, if you don't engage with it, it becomes weaker. I've seen this with I've seen this with a lot of people actually, where it's like they've gone against their intuition so much and they've pursued their own goals, their own desires, let's say, and the intuition is almost gone. It's like they won't even recognize the negative effects of some things. They'll just see certain desires, some things that they can grab from said thing, from said desire or whatever. So you bring up a good point about intuition and using it. I know that you specifically have worked several different types of jobs. Would you say that the part of the reason you change jobs is because of your intuition, or like you wanting to find new knowledge, or was it a different reason?
Um, I think I have pretty good intuition when it comes to meeting the right kind of people. I like people who are based and tell the truth and try to live
Am
the
I
truth.
based, Zachary?
Uh, I think so.
Thank you,
I
man.
think
Thank
so.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope that's a
I,
good
I
thing.
believe you are.
Okay.
But I like to spend time with people, whether even if they're controversial. I like when people are being true to themselves. I admire that. Um, and I think I'm pretty intuitive in terms of seeking wisdom through certain people that I admire and the right kind of people that, for me, to make myself a better person, uh, to get a different perspective if I'm struggling with something. I think I know how to ask the right questions and kind of have an idea with what the kind of person I'm looking at could be and kind of initiate a conversation, meet that person. But when it comes to career, I struggle with that a lot. It's almost if that takes a level in intuition to find your right career, I lack in that department like crazy because I have a problem with getting hyper focused on things and getting bored with things just as quickly. So I've had more jobs than the average person. But I think as I've gotten older, the switching of things has kind of narrowed and has started to happen less often. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think that you're definitely not the only person that experiences that problem. I mean, I've had my fair share of jobs. Um, I think that part of it is just kind of like a definitional thing. Like, what is a job? I think that a job is something that you do for money, right?
Right.
And and part of the definition of a job, I think, is that if you were not making that money, you probably wouldn't be doing the thing. And so when you get paid for doing what you love, that's kind of like getting paid for a hobby because hobby is something you do for no money, right? So that's why there's the old wisdom. There's an old wisdom that says that, to do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right? Because the definition of a job is to do something for money that you wouldn't otherwise do if you didn't make money. So to me, it sounds like you're kind of struggling with wanting to find a hobby to do what you love for money
Mm.
rather than just do something for only money and, you know, and you wouldn't be doing otherwise.
I think my
Now,
problem is I'm the kind of person that will usually do something if I really love it. And maybe I'm being hard headed, but I want to really love something and do it and figure that out in order to make that a career. But
mm,
I haven't found it yet. And so I'm thinking
well,
maybe I have to settle for something that I enjoy enough for that to be a means for me to make money and make it a career. At least in the meantime.
so what do you love doing?
In context of jobs,
No, not in context of jobs, just in general.
um, I I would say working with my hands. I like to I like to stay moving with my body, and I don't know if it's love. It's more like it when I'm moving my body. Especially, I used to be an engineer working on ships, and that was like 12 hours of moving your body and fixing things, and that got me. That gets you out of your head, and it kind of gets you more in the moment, and it's like hands-on work, and I got not addicted to that feeling, but like just wanted to be in that headspace, and and I think therefore I enjoyed it a lot. And there was a sense of there's another thing I love, which is you know having people in my life. and having relationships, having a sense of community, and you can have that, and it's a mixture of things. Like I like the the labor part, and then I got to work with a bunch of my friends, and that's the closest I've gotten to it, like loving a job. And so,
So you used to work as an engineer on a boat. I was very hands on, so you liked that. Um, what did you not like about that job? If you left that job, what made you leave that job, I guess?
well, I like the job, right? I like the day to days of that job. But like I said, I think one of the most, if not the most important thing, is relationships and being able to spend time with people you care about. Oh, uh, did you know you can do this, man? Can you see that?
I do it again. It's not doing it for me.
Oh, okay.
But no. I see it on your screen, but is it doing it for you?
I think it's just iPhone.
That is kind of funny. Okay.
Sorry,
So
me
what were you
getting
saying about?
distracted again.
No, you're good. So you were talking about relationships at your workplace, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much, because I met a lot of close friends working, and and you can get that through pretty much any most jobs. I would say a majority of jobs. You could meet your
But
close friends.
what what did you not like about the job? The engineering on the boat job.
Okay, so this is the reason why I probably won't do this long term, and I'm not doing it currently, is because of relationships, right? And my closest relationships that I have take place on shore, not on a boat.
On
Now,
shore, man.
so
Man, only a boat person would phrase it on shore.
yeah, so so you can't yeah, it's just it's tough to be gone all the time, and we can get into a part of it probably being my insecurity, why I'm not on the boat. Um, because there are people who probably do make it work doing long distance. Uh, but I think the most important thing is relationships and being able to spend time and making a priority in your life to spend a lot of your life with the people that you care about, you know. And money used to be more of a priority, but now I'm trying to find a balance in my life where I have a job that makes me good money, I enjoy, and I could come home every day and spend time with the people I care about.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I'm not working on that boat right now and may not go back on ships.
I see. So, would you say that your relationship is presenting sort of like an obstacle almost in you trying to find the career you want to pursue? Would you classify it as that, or what do you think?
But yeah, I'm sure you have some idea because we talk about it all the time. But I'm
Okay.
conflicted for sure because I love helping people. Uh, when I originally went to college, I took healthcare prerequisites. So I have me wrestling with, oh, I could become a PA, physician assistant. That was one of my ideas. That would take 3 years though. And I want to be able to support my relationships and a potential family now. I
Mm-hmm.
have me making as much as a PA right now on boats, but I'll be gone all the time. And that wouldn't make for most fulfilling or healthiest relationship. And then The third option I think could be the best. I want to know your opinion. Is finding a job that's uh, relatable to engineering because I have experience. It would be a 9 to 5 onshore. I would not make as much as any of those things that I mentioned before, but I'd be making decent money now and being able to spend time with friends, family, go to church on the weekend. And yeah, those are the things I'm wrestling with. I think they're pretty normal, but common, but it's still, I'm sure for a lot of people, it's something that would keep them up at night.
Yeah, well, I think you're onto something there. I mean, it's good that you're thinking about this. I think that there are some, so it might be difficult to say what you should do, right? But it might be a lot easier to say what you shouldn't do, right? So you probably shouldn't do a career that is 100% focused on just monetary wealth, gaining as much money as possible, right? Because the cost of that would be the relationship. And it sounds like you really value that. So you probably shouldn't do a career if it's only for the money. It just doesn't seem like a good long term plan to me. Although, I'm sure some people, it's not an absolute, right? But for your particular case, I don't think it'd be good. And you probably shouldn't work a job that doesn't pay the bills, right? Because then you just won't be able to provide for the family you had, right? So that kind of gives you that narrows the field actually more than you think. So that would mean that you need a career that provides for you and your family and your future family, allows you to invest, right, in the future. So you need a certain amount of money, but also you would need to be able to maintain these relationships. Now, it's kind of definitional, right? It depends on your relationship because I know some people, I know a guy who travels quite frequently around the country and he's in a relationship and the relationship is steady, but that's not to say that all relationships are like that. Every relationship is different. So,
He's in a long term or long distance.
no, they live with each other, but he travels a lot for work. He works remotely and he constantly is traveling around for work, like to meetings and stuff like that. And so he's an engineer actually. He works for a very big company and he's an engineer, I think an aerospace engineer, and he travels around frequently. But his relationship, as far as I know, they seem happy and they seem fine. I've only talked to them together a few times. So my point is that it kind of depends on the communication between the two partners, and there's a lot of intricacies there. But it was just the thought that it's easier to think what I shouldn't do, and then that narrows the field, and that'll help you figure it out. Um, but yeah, so I guess what do you think of that? What do you think you shouldn't do with the situation you were describing with relationship and job?
Well, me working, me being away on a ship for more than 30 days is definitely clear cut, you know, absolutely no.
Would you be gone for more than 30 days if you were to work on this ship?
No, there's a job that does 30 days on, 30 days off. And there's pros to that, because when I'm on a boat, I'm not spending any money. I'm saving every dollar I'm making. And then it's different from a 9 to 5 because every month I will be on vacation for 30 days. And during that month, I have a lot of free time for, to spend time with my friends and family. So it's a tough decision to make, and I think especially if you're in a relationship. Um, Maybe it's a good idea to test how you guys handle a long.
You there, buddy? Your camera's frozen. Hello? So,
Yeah,
you good, man?
my phone. I don't know what happened. My phone got really hot. Like it said, it needs to cool down. Temperature's too high.
You good now?
It's the iPhone 12. I swear.
Are you good now?
Yeah, I think so. I'm charging my other phone. If it happens again, I'll switch phones. The iPhone X probably wouldn't do this because my this phone always overheats. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah. Well, it's fine. It wouldn't be a first podcast without some adversity, right? Without some hurdles.
Yeah, it's a long
um,
process.
Actually, that's a good topic to talk about, hurdles and obstacles, because so we were just talking about your hurdles and obstacles, some hurdles and obstacles you were kind of pondering over with, your job and a hobby and relationship, kind of juggling all these things. Um, but I'm curious, just hurdles and obstacles in general. I guess what, how do you what has been a big hurdle for you, other than the job front, and how do you deal with hurdles? Is there a certain way you try to approach all of them, or how do you deal with them?
Hurdles,
Obstacles,
obstacles,
adversity,
like the biggest obstacles in my life.
stuff that you're going through right now, or that you've been through and you overcame.
Some big things I've overcame was a few things. Probably there were some things in my childhood. Um, I didn't have the best. I don't think I. No, I mean, you can't really compare. I don't think I had the worst childhood, but there's some things. My childhood, my first relationship, my family splitting up, probably because I was an athlete in high school. I've always been really active, and I think I get a lot of sense of self and peace when I'm an active person playing sports and engaging with people through sports. And so when I tore my ACL, that was pretty rough. And then probably I don't want to walk around saying like I'm a ADHD person, but having ADHD, being diagnosed with ADHD, there's some hurdles that come with that now that I'm aware of it and I've admitted to myself that, I uh, get distracted and you know lose track of where we are in a conversation, among other things. I can work on and get better. But yeah, those are the things that come to my mind right now.
Does my camera say battery exhausted for you?
Yeah,
This is why we test things.
this is why this is a perfect first podcast.
Yeah, we're not uploading this, by the way.
You
Hold on.
totally can later on. You should later on and be like, yo, this was my first podcast. It was rough.
Seth, I'm gonna add on.
Right. Are you away from the mic now?
Yeah, can you still hear me?
I can barely hear you, but I can hear you.
All right. Well, you know what's gonna happen, Zachary, right? You know what's about to happen, right?
Are we gonna pause
You
this?
no no no. You know what's gonna happen.
No, I don't.
Wait. I can't switch cameras while recording.
Oh, the show. Oh, are we continuing? The show goes on.
Might be able to save this. Saved.
There you are.
Let me check battery. All right. We're at 2%. We're good. All right. So,
Things running smooth now.
yeah. It's funny. We were just talking about hurdles, right? So, I will say one thing interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot on overcoming obstacles, overcoming hurdles. And I found there's a lot of wisdom on how to approach this, right? There's a lot of different ways to approach adversity. and obstacles in life. Is my camera blurry, by the way?
It's clear to me. I know mine's a little blurry because it's
Okay.
my phone, but
So yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to approach adversity and hurdles. But I found a very interesting approach actually in very ancient literature. So like it's almost like a hidden ancient wisdom that's kind of sort of been forgotten with new science, but there's basically an ancient wisdom that says when you face adversity, you should face it with like jubilation and joy and triumph. And this is a very interesting thing to me. So there's an old document, an old samurai document called the Hagakure. It was written in like the 17th century. And it's a compilation of books made by samurais, right? And there's a quote from it that basically says, "It is not sufficient just to say that you are not flustered in the event of a catastrophe. When challenged by adversity or an obstacle, charge onward towards it with courage and jubilation. This is rising to a higher level."
What
So
would be an
basically,
example of that?
yeah. So that's funny you say that. So later on in the book, it says an example of this is so an example of this would be like saying the more water there is, the higher the boat rises. Does that make sense? So it's like the
Are you
more
talking
water
about
there is,
hurdles?
yes, yes, the
Yeah,
catastrophe, hurdles,
yeah.
atrocities, terrible things, right? So the reason why this is a good example is because so the more water there is, this makes the sea. So let's say you're out in the ocean on a boat and there's more water. That means the waves are bigger. There's more risk to crush your boat, to be overthrown and drown. Terrible things could happen, right? But this saying says that the more water there is, the higher the boat rises. So that's not just saying that it's not just remaining calm in the situation, it's seeing yourself being lifted up. Like it's seeing your it's almost like the boat has gotten closer to heaven from the water rising. So it's like literally seeing joy and courage through this adversity. There's another similar saying actually in the Bible in Romans 5 3 through 5, and it says that we find glory in our tribulations because with tribulation it produces perseverance, and with perseverance character, and with character hope. So it's basically saying to find glory in the obstacles that come your way because in the end it leads to hope for yourself and for others. So it's like if you can see the big picture, then you can actually feel joy when an obstacle, like when something doesn't go your way and you fail or whatever, you actually can be like, yes, like find triumph in it because you know that eventually it leads to hope. And it's very similar to the Hagakure quote, where it's like it's not good enough just to remain calm when an obstacle comes to you. You have to find joy from it and courage from it and triumph. So I just mentioned this because we were talking about hurdles, and this is almost like a kind of a forgotten wisdom. Not a lot of people talk about this approach to dealing with obstacles. And well, have you ever experienced anything like this?
Um, yeah, but I just wanted to add and kind of keep talking about that for a second. Um, with tackling hurdles head on, having that, being able to do that. I guess it depends on what hurdle it is. I think it's very rare, at least for me, it was unheard of to be able to do. If you haven't had a lot of hurdles or experience in your life, I don't think people are. I don't think a lot of people are. I don't think some people are able to do that. Maybe when they're younger, or what I'm trying to say. I think it's for me at least. It's something that's kind of developed and a skill that I've gotten better at over time. You know,
It's
like
a wisdom, right?
certain hurdles, I don't think you can actually overcome
What do you
for
mean by
years.
that?
I think when you go, I mean, when you go through certain things, especially if it's something extremely difficult to go through, even at the time you may not even know that it's a something that's difficult, and you may just be experiencing at the time, but later on look back and realize it's something that's affected you in a negative way, and you've developed certain behaviors because of it, and so you don't overcome that hurdle for years, and you don't actually face that hurdle for years, something that's happened for a long time. And once you overcome that, then you're able to face that hurdle in the future, maybe head on, or more head on than you did before. And I think it just that with that just takes time. I hope I'm making some sense.
Oh yeah, totally. I think some people, even to take it a step farther, never overcome their hurdles. Like they live with it, they die with it. It's with them their entire life. They don't even want to face it. They just turn the other way. It's interesting, you know. It's well, I don't know enough about. I haven't thought enough about this exact phenomena to really say too much. But it is interesting how some people will, like, generally we'll have an intuition, right? We were talking about intuition earlier, that there's an obstacle that we need to face, or there's an obstacle at least that's in our path. But some people will choose to look the other way and not progress, and it it just like festers like a wound that hasn't been healed. Yeah, it's an interesting phenomena. I don't know enough about this, but what?
Yeah. I think it's also interesting that people can, I don't know if this is actually 100% accurate, but people may use their intuition to hang out with people who also may not be willing to deal with things that has
Well,
happened to them.
and to give some, not to completely dog on and anyone who does this, to give them some credit because it's a very interesting phenomena. So it's not entirely not negative. It's not entirely negative. There are some positive aspects to it, I think. Maybe. Um, like if you think of it from the standpoint of there's a person who maybe doesn't face their obstacles, but the reason why they don't face their obstacles is because they already have a set kind of rules that they live by, set morality that they live by, and they just wanna be able to pay off their mortgage. They just wanna be able to, have their kids do, make enough money so they can feed their kids, and like so. There's almost a respectable element to it in a sense that people are just trying to live, man. And I'm not really in a position to tell people the best way to live, but it is interesting when people's strategy to live and provide is to turn away from the thing that haunts you. But yeah, just to give a little credit where it's due, I think a lot of people are trying their best just to make ends meet.
Right. And yeah, and overcoming certain hurdles may present in different behaviors. And looking back now, certain things that I feel like I have overcome now presented, I think, in certain behaviors when I was younger. I think that just, I don't know. I think everyone has their way of trying to overcome or dealing with certain cards that they've been handed, and it just takes time.
hmm So,
Things just take time.
so I remember when we first met. We met in 2021, I believe. Um, I don't remember us ever talking about hurdles or I don't remember us ever talking about Christianity, let's say. And the reason why I bring Christianity up is because I wanted to ask you, how has Christianity influenced how you handle obstacles and adversity and hurdles? And were you a Christian? Have you always been a Christian? Because I know you are now.
Define Christian, like believe in God.
Well, how do you define being a Christian? And
Um,
would you say you're a Christian?
I think you can be Christian if you're. I think as of right now, my definition is I think you can be a Christian whether you're not that devoted or you're really devoted or you feel like you're really devoted to God and whatever it may be, reading scripture and and I guess you could be religious.
Well, those are two very different things.
Right. Putting
Being
yourself
religious and being Christian.
right, putting yourself in a certain denomination I think is a little step farther. I think I've always been religious when I was a kid. I think I I grew up in for the most part, a godless home. But my grandmother was really religious. She was Christian. And so I didn't have at least human to human interaction, and the frequency of it was low when it comes to talking about uh, God and Jesus in the Bible. Um, so my, I think, I don't know if that played an effect. I think it played a part, but my conversations with God was not that frequent. In fact, when I was younger, a lot of my conversations with God, praying to God and trying to have a conversation with Him, was mostly limited to when something was going wrong in my life. They were pretty angry conversations and conversations that, if it was like, why, and blaming and you. Like, why is this happening? What do I need to do? There was a lot of what do I need to do. So it wasn't a lot of anger, but it wasn't a lot of faith and you know your will be done sort of you know relationship. It was more just it was there was a
A
lot more
blame game.
emotion and anger for coming from me growing up. And then I think the past 2 years, that it was like that for a long time. And then past 2 years, 2.5 years, I've something you know switched in me. I became more of a follower of God and Jesus and trying to learn more and trying to be much more aware and get to know myself in terms of God's presence living through me. Yeah, it's been a past 2 years of letting go, being okay with certain things, and kind of surrendering to God's will and that sort of thing.
So you said these last 2 years you've really spent a lot of time and thought in the, let's say, Christian religion, Christianity, right? Has it been beneficial for you, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. And I can tell you. Uh, so I was in Italy. I told you I went to Europe for a month, and I had gone through a lot of stuff these past couple years, injuries, health issues. I always thought of myself as like I can't get hurt, like I'm invincible, you know. and those things happen.
Every every boy every boy feels that at one
Right,
point.
right. And certain things happened, and I've had, deaths that are really close to me happen too. Um, One of my friends passed away in the maritime industry, working on ships, and I don't know. A lot of things happened. So I was in Europe for a month. We stayed in contact throughout the whole thing. And what I wasn't planning on doing was going to as much churches and cathedrals as I did. I went to one, and I mean, traveling is like someone who has, you know, attention deficit, hurdles. It's like their like favorite thing because you can get distracted by whatever you want. You can go run over there, run over here, talk to whoever you want, and just
So
run
many
away.
new things.
Right, right. It's like the best thing. And so I was planning on going for a week, canceled my return flight, stayed, ended up staying for a month, largely because of those things. And I ended up wandering into like this really old cathedral, and I sat down and I was in there for like an hour just praying, not praying actually, just like kind of almost meditating, trying to clear my mind. And then I think having a conversation in my head, like, you know, who am I? What am I doing with my life? What is the purpose of life and all that stuff? And my mind cleared, and I felt a presence in there. And throughout the rest of the trip, and I got emotional too. And then throughout the rest of the trip, like they were like checkpoints. Like I ended up going to one in like every town, and then you know,
Churches, right?
yeah. And at that point, I ended up, I even ended up like they're really old churches. They have a lot of history, so there's a lot of tourists that go in. And I thought I was going into one, and there was a bunch of tourists in there, but it was actually a service. So I actually ended up staying for a service, and I didn't understand a single word, but like I liked it, and I felt it felt right to be there. But yeah, I guess at that point, and still now, I still consider myself, a novice, a student, trying to learn more. But I'm much more
Um,
chasing that faith.
I have a question because you said something that really caught my eye. It was when you were talking about when you enter the church. I believe it was one of the first times you entered a cathedral when you were in Italy, and you started self-reflecting, like on who you were, what you were doing, asking very deep philosophical questions. That caught my eye because I was wondering what prompted you to ask these questions, do you think?
I was struggling with very unimportant. I mean, we can go into meaning if you want, because we talked about meaning the other day. But I was I was thinking about a lot of things like, I don't have a career set in stone. I'm 29 years old.
You're an old man.
Right. Uh, I'm an old man, but I don't have a career. A lot of people, some people wouldn't think it's a good idea to just, you know, I stopped working on the boat and I traveled for a month. I didn't have a job at the time. What am I doing with my life? Like, what is actually important? Is it is it a high paying job? Like, like, and yeah, I just was pondering on things that I think were almost like not the most important things in life, I think. And there's another side of life, I think, that I was that I was starting to see, you know, spending time there, and I started worrying less, I guess.
So do you think that the I guess travel, the combination of travel and the old cathedral and the tradition kind of all evoked this ponder in a sense?
Yeah.
Like it made it come
in
out of you
in
almost?
simple terms, I think I just felt lost in life, and I felt at peace with that. Being at churches, spending time in the churches, and having trying to have a conversation with God about it. And I just, there's just an overwhelming feeling. And
Yeah. I think that that's a good transition to talk about the future. You were talking about the the path you were taking or the path you want to take kind of was unclear to you, right? Because you were saying you felt lost. But when you say you feel lost, that kind of infers there's a correct path, right? There's a path that you should be following. So it's kind of funny, but
I mean,
um,
I read somewhere, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, that, being lost is a good thing because you're somewhere you've never been before. Navigating that lostness is a hurdle. It raises that
yeah,
water, you know.
yeah. Well, there's some very deep wisdom in that, I'm reading a book right now called Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson, and he would definitely agree with what you just said. In the book, in chapter 2, chapter is called Meaning or Maps of Meaning, he outlines this very thing where he says that, the unknown is infinitely there. It will always be there. The reason why it will always be there is because we cannot plan for everything that will happen. So inevitably, something will happen that you did not expect, and this will be an unknown thing, and this will steer you off the path. Right, the the plan that you tried to predict will eventually go off course, and that would be the lost place that you talk about. And so, but what happens is that whenever you traverse the unknown, according to Jordan Peterson's book, this allows you to, let's say, gain more territory. It allows you to learn new things. And it's essential for being the hero in Jordan Peterson's book. The hero is the person that has the plan, but also traverses the unknown as he goes along the path. You could say it's actually a heroic thing to be lost and then struggle and then find your way back and then be lost and then struggle and then find your way back, and it's this kind of balance between the two. It's not a perfect balance, right? But it's kind of the swaying to each side that makes the balance, the pathway forward.
I love
I
that,
know.
dude. I want to
Yeah, I
believe.
know.
Yeah, I want to remember that.
Yeah, I know that Jordan Tremaine has a very good quote about balance, where we often think that balance is the harmonious state, everything is perfect and aligned, but really balance is like you're walking on a tightrope, and when you start to sway this way, you have to lean your body to the left, if you're swaying right, to move the wire back to stay balanced on the wire. And that's really what balance is like in life.
Losing your way and making course corrections along the way.
There you go.
Oh, dude, I just thought of a question. When you made me think of a question when we were talking about that, the unknown. Tell me what you think about this question. It might be kind of not a good question, but do you think that some people are more susceptible and drawn to the unknown? So Therefore, they find themselves feeling lost more often than people who are more wanting to just be comfortable. I just thought of that question.
Oh, it's a great question, Zachary. I've never thought of that before. But yeah, I definitely think some people are more prone to traverse the unknown, and some people are more prone to stay away from it.
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think that it's not a good or a bad thing. It definitely has pros and cons. I think that well, so what I think is that to traverse the unknown, we have to know what that means. So that's when you set a plan, and let's say your plan doesn't go your way, and so you have to reevaluate the plan. Okay. Now, if you don't reevaluate the plan, or let's say you don't move forward in life, you're not traversing forward, then that's almost staying in the box where you're at, right? Um, it's it's like if you work the same job for 50 years and you live in the same house for 50 years, um, that would be, I feel like that's sort of an example, a very bad example, the best one I can think of right now, where it's like you had a plan and you achieved it and you achieved this box, right? And there's so much more that you could go, but you stay in this box that's familiar to you, right? And again, that's not a good or a bad thing. I have a lot of respect for people who work to provide, and work jobs and get a pension, etc. So it's not a bad thing, but it's definitely it's not the adventure I would say that at least that's outlined in Maps and Meaning. Definitely the adventure is it's like picture an island that's in the middle of the ocean, and then you're constantly digging up dirt. You walk into the ocean, which is the unknown. You dig up dirt from there, toss it towards the shore to extend the shore a little bit. So it's like you're extending the island constantly, but there'll always be water around you. So for your question, do some people are they more prone to traverse the unknown or not? Well, I mean it's just a personal, almost like preference or realization.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's kind of a masculine feminine aspect to it in a sense. Like
Oh, really?
yeah, I'd say so. Not it's not the complete definition, but I mean the masculinity is very ordered. It creates ordered things. And so it's like masculinity would be like the house that you stay in for like 50 years, and it's like yeah, it's a good question, Zachary. I'm not sure I'm knowledgeable enough really to answer it, but I definitely think, everyone's different and experiences, let's say experiences are objective, right? Let's say we both experience the same experience. Our perception on the experience would be different. So the experience would be different for us, even though it's the exact same. You might be depressed about one thing that I find joy in another, and you might just crumble at one thing, or I might crumble at one thing while find succeed and triumph in it. And so it depends on the person. It depends on their ability to reflect and knowledge and all these things. But that being said, the the ideal path would be one moving forward, and moving forward would inevitably have you go into the unknown, if that makes sense. So it's like if you want to move forward, you have no choice to fall into the unknown because you can't plan for everything. I have a question for you.
What's that?
So we're talking about traversing forward, unknown and known, whatever. But traversing forward implies that you're moving towards something, right? So my question for you is, what is your big goal? What is your biggest goal? The overarching goal, would you say? Where are you heading toward? Where do you want to head toward?
My biggest goal in life is to. My biggest goal is to have a family. It's probably the most. It's probably the biggest motivator I have is to have a family, have kids, And it's also one of the biggest fears I have, which is me not having kids is a fear I have. So I'm definitely I definitely ponder on that, and I think it's a goal I have is to have a family, have kids, being able to provide for my family, being able to take care of my being able to have the time and freedom to spend time with my friends and go on vacations with my friends, travel with my friends, and I want to continue growing my faith too. Um, but I don't have a clear cut goal on that. I don't know what that would be. I just want to continue growing my faith in God. And
So to me, it sounds like the big overarching goal for you is relationships, really, because all the things you mentioned are relationship based. So, what do you think the biggest obstacle towards this goal is?
I think a lot of it is me continuing to mature, uh, growing personally, finding a career that works that to make those things attainable. If it was the other direction, this is kind of an interesting thing. I feel like if I had a goal where like, oh, I'm going to become, you know, a pilot, then maybe the things that are my actual goals, which relationships, would come easier. And I kind of think that maybe I'm maybe putting the cart before the horse because my goals are my relationships. I'm not thinking about my career when sometimes thing I struggle with the most, Bradley, is the career thing. And yeah, I don't know, maybe yeah, those are my goals, but my goals may should be prioritized differently.
Yep. Well, a lot of people, I think, struggle with the career thing. I think that it's really helpful to know yourself. That will help you find the career that best fits you. And very helpful to love yourself. So there's kind of a saying, right? It's like, know yourself, love yourself, set yourself. So first you know yourself. That way you can pursue the things that are proper for you. Then you love yourself because you you need to be okay with who you genuinely are so that you can be authentic. And that will allow you to find people who appreciate your authentic self. And those are the people you should be around. And then set yourself as now that you know what's who you are and you love who you genuinely are, you can now set the foundations of so that you can build your family and build your life around these things and raise yourself or others up. And so yeah, I would say like the best thing probably career to help figure out what career you do is just reflect and write about what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. That would be a good place to start. What do I like to do? Okay, I like hands-on work. Okay, I don't like doing long math equations. Okay, I like this, I like that. I don't like that. Just so you get a general sense, and then you start to see a pattern like, oh, okay, I like hands-on things. I like sculpting things. I like colors. I like playing. I like blah blah blah, and I don't like all this stuff. And it's like now that whittles down the career field a lot. And so and then you also have to think in terms of competitiveness, right? Because it's true that some jobs are extremely competitive and other jobs are not competitive in terms of with your coworker. So that's important to realize because if you don't do well with competition, then you enter a hyper competitive job, then that's like hell, and the same reverse. If you like competition, you're super ambitious, you want to move forward, then you can't climb because there's no competition, you can't make more, then it's like it's a punishment for you because you're not
Yeah,
being rewarded for who you are. So
right. What about you, man?
what do I want to?
Yeah. What are your goals?
What are my goals?
Yeah. Or same question you asked me.
Like, what's the biggest goal? The overarching? Oh, well, the overarching goal is I want to be a good father, and I'm writing a book right now on father. And part of that book in the very beginning is redefining what father actually means. Because when I say I want to be a good father, it doesn't mean I just want to have kids, and that's it. Being a father, it entails, well, for one thing, it entails being a good husband, and it entails being a leader in the community, I think. And it entails, a father doesn't start when you have a kid. I think being a father starts long before you have a kid. So that's another misunderstood thing. But I think that I want to be with the Father, and I want to embody the Father and act it out, and then sort of be personified as the Father. And that is definitely my highest goal. I don't think it's hard to attain. It's very difficult to attain. I think there's nothing more rewarding than that goal, and that's the reason why I'm writing this book, to figure this goal out, to actually help me move towards this goal, and also to help others move towards whatever their goal is, because your goal doesn't have to be a father. I talk in this goal, in this book rather, the sort of using the spirit of the father to move forward with new ideas. And so being the father is kind of just being a role model, a seeker of truth, a genuine person, a a good parent and a good husband, a leader, and yeah, it's not really a. That's why I say the spirit of the Father, because it's not really like I can just say a definition. It's more like an image that that defines Father. It's a paint. So that's my big goal, and I'd say my biggest obstacle for that is you, Zachary. No, I'm just kidding. That would be crazy. No, my biggest obstacle is probably myself. Like that's probably my biggest obstacle.
Yeah. You said it really well. I agree with like what you said about fathers and wanting to be a good father. You said it much better than I could have said it, but I agree with you 100%.
Well, I'm glad you.
Yeah. I don't want to just have kids to have kids. I definitely want to be a good role model, even when they're 1 or 2 years old. You can get to know them. They're not just brains you can mold. You can get to know someone who's
Oh yeah,
6 months old, 2 months old.
I think that if you do it right, then kids are the best relationship you could ever have, because they just adore you. They love you. I mean, they're like puppies, but you can actually communicate with them. And they actually learn. It's the craziest thing. I have a cousin who's in high school right now, and I'm I talk to him occasionally, and it's crazy. One of the times I was taking a walk with him, he said something like, "Oh yeah, Bradley, you mentioned this and that," and so I researched it. Now I started watching YouTube videos in it, and I started getting really into it and thinking of it, and it's like, wow, like I actually had an impression on this kid. Like I actually shifted the fate of this kid in a sense, because like he actually listened to what I said and acted. It's a weird feeling, man. Like when you feel that for the first time, it's like I actually have an impact on someone, and there's no one you have an impact on more than your.
Right. Yeah, I think also a fear I have is just doing right by my kids and my partner, and I want to do a good job. And I think you can. I guess people say you're never really truly ready, so you got to find that balance with wanting a kid and being mature enough and experienced enough to know that you need to make certain sacrifices and put your family first. And yeah, I want to be a good dad too. uh,
Very well said, Zachary. Very well said. I think that is a good place to stop for the first episode.
what,
Yeah.
you're cutting me off, man?
Well, okay. What? Go ahead. Finish your
No, no,
finish.
no, I'm just messing with you, man.
Okay.
What
Yeah,
time
I
is
think
it?
that's a good place to stop. Mm. We've been talking for about an hour and 10 minutes ish. So yeah, I want to thank you, Zachary, for making time for me. It was very last minute. I texted you the day before, and you worked today full day, and you were still able to come on. So I appreciate that,
Yeah,
and
man.
hopefully we will have many more conversations.
Thanks for having me, man. I hope I this is the first podcast or first, like, I don't know. I mean, this was just a conversation that we had, which is basically what it was. But yeah, I was kind of worried about how to conduct myself a little bit because it was my first time. But yeah, it was fun. I'd be down to do it again. Maybe I can get a better camera and an actual mic, an actual setup too. But yeah, thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, no worries. Take
You too.